Now, I want to say that every time I'm talking about a replacement, there is the obvious boogeyman in the room that is the great replacement theory. And a lot of people are instantly trying to reject anything that anyone who talks about replacement says on the grounds that they are going to be associated with a theory that is supposedly very bad and things like that. But I want to say that I'm not familiar with the details of the theory, but as a process, replacement in the West is absolutely a fact. And we will talk about a lot of the data that seem to support this. Now, let me say, Eva Vlar-Dingerbroek spoke...
Well pronounced. I can't pronounce her surname.
I've
been practicing.
I've messed the pronunciation many times. I think I got it right this time.
Yeah. Hi folks, sorry to interrupt the video, but I just want to direct your attention to the aesthetics range of merch that we have on the store. These are beautiful images that I think work really well as posters or mugs. So if you want to support us, going over to the merch store at shop.lotuseater.com is easily the best way other than signing up on the website.
So she gave a speech at a Hungarian conference saying that here it is, the full speech I gave at CPAC Hungary, that the establishment is losing its absolute mind about. She portrays the great replacement theory as a forbidden truth.
Can we just talk about based Rod Schneider there, though?
Well,
you know who Rob Schneider is?
I kind of just know him from the jokes about him at this point. Rob Schneider.
Yeah, but he's an actor from like the 90s and early 2000s.
Plays a stapler.
He's in
Rob Schneider as the stapler.
He was in loads of stuff.
He was in funny stuff.
Yeah.
Also with Adam Sandler, he has played in several comedies.
He's been in loads of stuff. So interesting how he's broken ranks with the Hollywood types.
Yeah. So he says,
Schneider is the far right influencer coming to cinemas Monday. Sorry.
So he says the global elites want to destroy Western civilization, and Europe has already fallen. America can't afford another 4 years of the globalist Biden regime flooding our country with non-citizens, forever changing our nation into the rot we see in democratic-run cities.
Okay, hang on, just a quick thing. Is he wrong in any way when he says that?
Just one. When he says Europe has already fallen, it's fallen when people believe it is.
I didn't hear no bell.
I guess there is that. You know, maybe I should reply to that with just a picture of the Reconquista. But to be fair, though, okay, that one thing aside, it's not already fallen; it's in the process of falling. Thank you, Rob. But that's exactly correct.
Yeah, it is
great messaging. I would have said that.
Yes. So Elon takes issue with Eva's comment, and he says the problem with great replacement theory is that it fails to address the foundational issue of low birth rates. Record low birth rates are leading to population collapse in Europe and Asia. Even faster, immigration is low in Asia, so there's no replacement going on. The countries are simply shrinking away. If this doesn't turn around, then any countries on Earth with low birth rates will become empty of people and fall into ruin like the remains we see of the many long-dead civilizations. So I want us to talk about something in this tweet, and we can come back to it. But mainly, it's the last part where he says, if this doesn't turn around, then any countries on Earth with low birth rates will become empty of people and fall into ruin. Because the issue here for me is that this is, on the one hand, true, but the question is whether a lot of people embrace this mindset and say, like Chuck Schumer says, for instance, and the Democrats say in the US, well, yes, low birth rates are a problem and they can be solved by unqualified, unrestricted mass migration on this reason. The question is whether that sabotages the...
Can we talk about that sentence?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But
let me just say, the question is whether this sabotages the younger generations of each Western country from having families and improving their numbers. Yep.
I just love we're going to fix low birth rates by increasing immigration. But the birth rate still remains low if you increase immigration.
Also,
it doesn't actually change it.
One thing that people like Chuck Schumer forget is that foreigners are also humans, and they're subject to the same incentives. And so, say, if foreign women come over to America or the UK and they realize, oh, look, there's birth control completely available all day, every day, I might actually reduce the number of children I'll have too. And so they are subject to the same incentives and they go, oh, yeah. And so we actually see, if you look at the graphs, like immigrant birth rates decline over time. And so it's like, right, okay, so they're actually not the solution to the problem because they're subject to the same pressures. And so we need more and more. And so we become like this like black hole of lineages. Well, no, the West is where your lineage comes to die, actually. Like, if you thought you were going to get grandchildren, well, don't send any of your kids to the West because they're not going to do it, is basically what we need to think about there.
But I don't really care about the foreigners' birth rate.
I don't care about that either, but like...
I'm talking about the natives' birth rate. Like,
sure.
You're not fixing that in the slightest.
But even your proposed solution is not a solution because their birth rates collapse as well. So it's just like, okay, well, that didn't work, did it? Anyway.
Now, someone is overreacting slightly. Someone says, no, Elon Musk, the biggest problem with the Great Replacement theory is that it's literally false in the propaganda of neo-Nazis like yourself. P.S. We're still waiting for you to delete your account and step down as CEO like you pledged to do over a year ago.
Okay.
And here, just look at the profile description. It says, the Grand Old Party, the Republicans, is a fascist Nazi cult. Just,
I mean, I think this person just needs to get off the internet.
Yeah, just, crazy internet paraphernalia. Right. So I want us to look at some of the facts, okay? Some of the things that are actually happening and stop with the isms, stop with the theories. Let's just look at events that are taking place. Right. So here it's from Eurostat, Eurostatistics Explained. It's talking about fertility statistics. These are data from 2022. And it just shows here the birth rate of each country. Now, interesting though, which is very much alarming for everyone who cares about Western civilization and Western societies, is that these are not necessarily local birth rates. So
what do you mean not
ethnicity isn't necessarily taken into account.
Oh, right.
It's just people giving birth.
Yeah.
So it says live births per woman. It isn't live births per local woman.
Yeah. Because I understand in Italy it hit 1 recently.
Well, here in Malta it's 1.08. It's just incredibly low. Replacement rate is 2.1. It stands for average children per woman.
Yeah.
That's an average. You can't have 2.1 kids or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, you see Greece here. My country is 1.32. It's very low. Cyprus 1.37.
Britain not represented. God bless Brexit.
Italy here 1.24. What's going on? Okay, put on some nice music of the one you haven't. Get it on. Spain here has 1.16. Not good. Portugal 1.43. The highest one is France 1.79, which is well below replacement rate. Now, there are several issues about this. Some people aren't very alarmed. I think they should be.
Yeah.
For several reasons. Now, personally, I don't embrace the position that the more the merrier, but I do think that having big numbers and good numbers when there are several really important cultural problems and threats to the dominant culture is of paramount importance. It's just salient.
Also, I mean, there's just the underlying fact that the future belongs to those who show up for it. If you don't have children, then your people, your culture, your lineage doesn't exist in the future, and therefore it doesn't belong to you. You're the end of 4 billion years of evolution of life. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah. And that's the position where a lot of people diverge who understand that the demographic is a problem, because a lot of people on the right, we say that it's also a cultural problem.
Yeah.
Whereas leftists say that is merely an economic problem. You solve it by increasing numbers. If you increase number, GDP goes up, and that's it.
That's crazy because, I don't know, say 70 years ago, a lot of people were insanely poor and had loads of kids.
Yeah.
So the left-wing economic explanation is obviously nonsense.
And it says here, I won't give you much more details here. It says almost 2 times fewer children born in the EU in 2022 than 6 decades ago. 1.46 live births per woman in the EU in 2022. Women in the EU are becoming mothers later in life. France with the highest and Malta with the lowest fertility rate. Anyway, anyone who is more interested in that, they can check it out. Now, the issue is that people think, and a lot of people just portray it as an economic problem. And here is, for instance, Chuck Schumer, who is
The numbers on my graph are concerning.
literally talking about it here. I can,
Fox won't let us watch it. Never mind.
anyway.
Nearly. No.
Yep. So this is an infamous video, by the way. It has been played along many times. He is literally saying that there are low birth rates and they can be solved by mass migration. So that's not news.
Stupid, sexy immigrants.
Yeah. Now, on the other side of the Atlantic, we have here International Rescue Committee. What is the EU Pact on Migration and Asylum? I want to show you something here. A particular phrase is the following. Europe is now at a crossroads. It can either move ahead with the policies of deterrence and exclusion,
Sold.
which will simply drive more people onto dangerous journey, or choose to lead by example.
We've covered this before, and I made that exact joke before because
yeah,
I'm so
it wa-
totally
was-
on board with it.
Last Friday, but
Yeah.
it's important to show how, on the one hand, a lot of people who are pro globalist institutions are saying that anyone who is talking about threats to the dominant culture of Western countries is an extremist.
Yeah, okay.
And on the other hand, they are literally saying that their goal is to just lead a humanitarian revolution across the world. It says they are literally and choose to lead by example in a spirit of global humanitarian leadership.
Yeah.
Well, that's the issue here, because we have a lot of unelected bureaucrats who want to basically virtue signal and internalize any external problem to Europe and the US. And that's a major issue. And I want to say that one of the main reasons why this prevents sort of improvement of local birth rates is that it creates an economic problem. One of the reasons that young people, young natives, don't have families as they did before to the same degree is economic.
Maybe.
There are other factors. There are. I'm not saying it's just one, but
I'm not terribly persuaded by this. I think that there's that. I mean, that is going to be something that is in people's minds. But I think that there's a general sort of anti-natalist culture that we have anyway, and a kind of veneration of youth, and so that people aren't encouraged to think about what their lives are going to look like in the future. And ultimately, it's really the availability of birth control. Like, women have access to birth control, and therefore they use it, and therefore they can decide not to have children. And if you've got a nice, convenient life, where you've got a nice job, you go to the gym, blah, 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 you don't want to change that. And so women are just opting out because they can opt out.
I think you're right to a significant degree. I can speak for myself.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a better economic condition, I would have had a clan by now.
Okay.
Yeah, house stallions
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
But and a lot of the times, yes, we do focus on a lot of other cultural problems, especially when we talk about very aggressive feminism that leads women to think that career is the only thing of value in this life. Yes, it is. And I think it's an issue of numbers. The question is to what degree each of us is right. But I'm willing to bet that a lot of people are saying that they want to have family and that they are constantly being asked to pay for other things.
Yeah.
And what I want to say is that when people talk about the Great Replacement theory, I have the impression that they are talking about an intention behind it and stuff like that. I'm not talking about this.
I'd like to know whether the theory is written down. I've never actually seen it.
I have another, but I'm just talking about anecdotal evidence. But the point is that it doesn't have to be intention so much as you see a lot of people in globalist institutions who do nothing to prevent obvious threats. So when people like Chuck Schumer say literally that yes, there is a demographic problem and it is going to be solved by unqualified mass immigration. And when you have unqualified mass immigration, you need to increase taxes and you need to have the younger generation pay for those who come in. That literally sabotages the economic condition of the young natives, and it sabotages their opportunities to have a family.
And it's done to make sure that there's people working in the economy, which
Yeah.
obviously depresses their wages.
Yeah. So whatever the details of the theory are is irrelevant when we look at data like this. And the issue is that multiculturalists right now, they're not talking about assimilation. This is what a lot of people don't understand. They're literally saying that immigrants, wherever they are from, shouldn't have to assimilate. And not just immigrants. They're talking generally speaking about minority groups. They're saying that there is a dominant culture and it should respect all other cultures. And when they're talking about it in the abstract, they don't pose literal, concrete questions like what kind of cultures are compatible with each other. And that leaves a gap of power that a lot of people are going to take advantage of it. And we were constantly being told by lots of people from these globalist institutions that these are extremist considerations. But look at what happened here in Germany. We have from Radio Genoa here, a lot of people in Germany are calling for an Islamic caliphate within Germany. And Gadsad says here, it's beautiful to see Germany fully embracing multiculturalism. Obviously, he's ironic. This is how you create vibrancy in society. This is going to turn out well. Don't worry about it. So when we don't have strong dominant cultures in the West, there's a gap of power. Nature doesn't love vacuums, as the old saying goes. People are going to fill that vacuum. And the more these officials of globalist institutions are constantly attacking people who are patriotic and want to support their culture and denounce them as extremists, the more room they leave to other people to try and attack, culturally speaking, I'm not the dominant culture, and try to literally work from within to disentangle that, let's say, dominant culture.
What I love about this, what's the question? The Islamic Caliphate is the solution, but the question is, why is there such a lack of Islamic Caliphate? Sorry, carry on.
I don't know.
But this is why I don't know. I kind of disagree with you probably on a fundamental worldview here, where it's the concern with birth rates bothers me a lot less than the replacement idea. So the idea that you have a population that's not having as many kids as they should to replace themselves, therefore you bring in foreigners. That's the bit that's utter cancer for me and makes me angry. But I think of two societies, I mean, there probably is about two on Earth, that have gone through the lack of replacement and haven't engaged in mass immigration. The ones that come to mind are Iceland and Japan.
Japan's going down that road.
You warned this, but I still haven't seen it yet. So both of them have done that for the last 30 years. And neither of those 30 years have been bad. In fact, they've been great for both of them. And it's like, well, especially when we talk about England, like how overpopulated this part of the island especially is.
Yeah.
Because it's like when you look at the old graphs of how many English there are, like if we half the number of English and there's got rid of all of Tony Blair's children, of course, then would it be a bad thing? I mean, the population density would stop being like Northern India and start being more like France.
I mean, going back to Elon's point where he says, well, this is how civilizations collapse. Not really. Most civilizations that have collapsed due to war.
Callum, I don't think we disagree that much, because I agree with you that the more the merrier isn't invariably true. But I think that it is important to care about large numbers when you want to support the dominant culture, especially in conditions where it is under threat.
Yeah, I mean, just as a dictator for the day,
Yeah.
I'm removing the threat.
Right. So what happens in a nutshell is that the West suffers from low birth rates. Everyone understands this to be a problem, but for different reasons. And officials of the managerial state see it as an economic problem, whereas people from the right see it as primarily a cultural problem.
Yeah.
So whether they actively bring it about or not, the issue with managerialists is that they're doing nothing to prevent it. And when they're phrasing their goals and expectations for the future, they're sort of counting on it. They're saying, yeah, this is going to be an inevitable trend. In order for us to reach our goals as a union or as a federation or whatever, we need to basically count on these flows. But the issue with managerialists is that they also deny the importance of the nation state. They deny the idea of national sovereignty as an obsolete notion. And they make it really worse for native young people to have families, and they literally turn a blind eye to many actual crimes. Mm-hmm. They sort of do nothing about it, and they adopt double standards. And in multiculturalist discourse, it's called group differentiated rights. There are some groups that are not the dominant groups who are seen as requiring a special treatment.
Oh, really?
And that is why you see two-tier policing, and you see a lot of people talking about things and getting away with it, and other people saying something that up until now was common sense and being denounced as extremists. Now, John gave us this video, if you want to check it out, about some people who are actively talking about how to bring forth a overthrow of the British government. And for some reason, this hasn't generated the alarm that it should have. Just watch it. And I want to say here about the expectations of people from the managerial estate. They haven't been exactly successful. Here, Michael O'Fallon is sharing a quote by Robert Mueller, who was the UN Assistant Secretary General. He says, "In the process, religions will hopefully reduce and progressively give up their fundamentalism in favor of a global spirituality, the same way as nations in the United Nations have reduced to some extent their national fundamentalism called sovereignty."
Hopefully.
Well, yeah.
Obviously, but hopefully.
Yeah.
It's also just not even true, the idea that people have actually given up that much. I remember, what was it, during George Bush's administration, they passed a law saying that if The Hague tried to try a United States citizen, they have the right to invade the Netherlands. Because the fundamental truth is the global hegemon's the global hegemon.
Yeah.
No matter what you want to dress it up as.
Yeah. So, conclusion that replacement as a fact and process, I think, is absolutely taking place. I don't know exactly about the theory and all this stuff, but it doesn't matter. The point is,
the facts on the ground.
The facts on the ground, yeah. Let's stop the isms and all the conversation stoppers and talk about the facts that are taking place in plain sight. And if you want to check out more, I have a link here for an article by Ayaan Hirsi Ali, if you are interested in checking out more.
If you appreciated that episode from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as Common Sense Crusade with Calvin Robinson. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.